There you go. So what a wonderful occasion to connect on under the topic of change. I am just aware how the weather is changing recently. There's been some sun coming through our windows here where I am. And just as we are arriving, I would just like to invite you for a moment to just come to the moment of presence, and we will be meditating a little bit as well, but maybe just look around you for the moment and just notice, where is change apparent for you? It could be an object. It could be something you're seeing through the window. What are you noticing has changed? Just begin to be aware of how is your notion of change presenting itself at this moment. Is it a change within the past hour, the past day, past week, a year? Just let all of that become present and alive for you. We're having more people joining in, and just to share that we are reflecting on any object or any state or anything around you that is presenting change for yourself. So we are going to check in like that. And I'm going to begin, and maybe I'm going to call the next person just so that we ensure a bit of a flow. Here we have a first the first check-in. Caroline is checking in from a plane, and truly embracing change might drop out when the flight takes off. So it's just noticing that change, right? It's engaged action. It's right at the beginning. And there's been a lot of change probably even before you came in. Thank you for checking in like that. And you're welcome to write in the chat as well. So we have a mother here. So Anya is saying, I'm with my baby, might not actively participate. So it's just how much change there is when we have a newborn, right? There is another change happening. And for me, it's about the season. So I'm seeing the snow melting, still some residues of like patches of snow outside, and some dry leaves on the trees. Whoever would like to go next.
Yeah. Well, I'm noticing the change in my cat's behavior, because just a minute ago he was running like a lunatic, like this, I call it possessed phase, and now he's curled up on the chair, like peaceful and calm, like nothing happened before. So that's my take.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next, I guess. A big change I was just sharing with a client of mine in the coaching session is the lights. The day are getting longer. It's so visible. So happy that here in Beijing, I think 6:15, something like that. Still sunlight there, so nice. I love that. And when we were doing the practice, actually the change that came to me was not visual changing, I was smelling, because I'm preparing my soup and there are some nice smell coming through. So it was more for the smell, actually.
Wow, yes. So how much it's everything. So for some of us, the change is actively happening in our state. through the movement, like taking off, being on the plane. For someone is witnessing life, the change, even maybe wanting change, especially when it comes to a newborn and like the child, that we are observing their change from one state to another, or an animal, a pet, or just these seasonal change, right? Like that is happening either by snow melting or the days getting longer. I truly embrace that. And I just became aware when I was sending a reminder for people for this webinar. I actually changed the title of the webinar, and instead of saying embracing change through mindfulness, I sent a reminder of managing change with mindfulness. And I just paused for a moment and realized how different that is. And there is dear friend Nyama as well. Welcome. So so the just that act of managing versus embracing, right? Like in those two words, we could say that really is the key element of how we manage with mindfulness, right? Or how we are being mindful and aware on how change happens. And as we welcome you, Nyama, as well, I'm just wondering if you would like to check in. Is there anything in your vicinity, in your environment at the moment that reminds you of change, or brings the element of change?
Hello. Cannot all imagine how happy I am to see you all. So happy, really. Oh, so thank you, Dalida, everyone. Yeah, I think also change of like the mind, also the mindfulness community also is a change for me, as you know, it shifted. And it's something that I always have reminder of it. So like every time either I see a post from like Dalida, or I try to find some, way to search. So I'm like, okay, that's actually a big change for me to go like through it. And yeah, of course, like being here, I moved to Hong Kong in the summer. So it's a big change, of course. At work is a change. So I feel like a lot of changing, and I am considering also another change. Yeah, so I think when we change, I feel like sometimes maybe it's not always the best decision. So it's also good to know, like, where should I stay? Where should I leave again? So yeah, but I'm just like so happy to be here.
Wonderful. Welcome, Nyama. It's also really nice to see everyone being present. And I've been researching a little bit about this topic from different angles, and actually from the topic of uncertainty, and how much we are basically feeling uncertainty when it comes to change. So some change can be welcomed, some change we can resist, some change is happening that we are not even taking into account, although it's happening all the time. And some change we are ignorant of, and we believe that it will never come, and yet it does come for each and every one of us. And probably you're guessing what I'm thinking about. So that uncertainty, I'll just very briefly mention this notion that comes from the research of neuroscience. The brain is actually a selfish organ. Our brain is so actively conducting the whole energy distribution so that everything is in service to brain. So the brain is not really managing any other organ, is not working for the whole, is just utilizing all energy for itself. And one thing that is making brain utilize a lot of energy is actually uncertainty. That is the time when it begins to activate and it strives to create certainty and safety and something that is predictable and something that is known. And from that perspective, what brain does, it's going to give us signals that even something that is not necessarily beneficial for us, it's going to be more familiar and better for the brain than to step out of that familiarity. And this is why making decisions to change something or to step into unknown can be really, really hard. So, you know, we can talk about psychological safety as well and what makes us feel psychologically safe, especially within that element of change. But one specific concept of mindfulness actually that is related to this is embracing the concept of impermanence. The change is always present. And one, let's say, element that can bring a hardship to us, especially or obstacle to being mindful, is when we are ignorant to that. We are ignorant to the fact that impermanence is the only constant element in at least in our life, on Earth as well. So before we go, I would love to make this a little bit more interactive. But I also want to bring some engagement, and I would love to share one animation with you. And it is for 4 minutes. Just pause this. Just pause for a moment, and I would like to invite you to perhaps just sit with whatever is coming up for you. Is there any special scene or part of this video that was letting you pause for a moment and just stay embedded in your memory for a little bit longer? And what is that about?
I will share, I don't know if it's 100% like relevant to the story, but it's in the same idea. Is that like, for example, before I've never like thought a lot about this question of age, like different stage of life. For me, it's natural. And also because I'm always surrounding myself people who are in the same stage of life as me, not just by the age, but also like they have different mindset as me. So I was always like, we're always young, no matter like what age. There is always time to change anything and everything about our life. You know, like people still figuring their life out in all ages. And then actually, like in my job, a few months ago, I started thinking, because some of the people like with me that also I get along with are like way younger than me. And it just like started to get me in the way of like, okay, am I late? Am I late in life in general? Am I like, I just sometimes feel a little bit inadequate in terms of all of this like stage of life or where I should be, but I am not there. or, you know, all of this. So I think just recently I started talking about like this life transition that I didn't think about like before. I was always like, okay, let's go, it's normal. And I still think the same, but I think being in this environment with people who are like younger than me, I think it just make me think a lot of the transition, life transition, and like this kind of thought actually. So yeah,
Yeah.
this was you think.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that awareness that there are certain moments when those life transitions are a little bit more pertinent and stronger than usual. Yeah, certainly resonate to that. Any other thoughts? Anything that stood out?
Well, for me, it seemed like that she was mainly never happy, at least only when she was a child. Like all the other stages, looks like she was always wanted to be somebody else, or that she was suffering for at that very stage. And I find it a little bit sad, to be honest. And then the part when she is a grandma and there is a child appearing and she's giving her hand. Actually, it reminded me of two scenarios. So one is like the old to help the young with their wisdom or knowledge, and the other one was to embrace the child within. Basically, that maybe that grandma was that child at the same moment, and just accept all of the roles. So that's my take.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for contributing from that point of view, the stages of life and our happiness or level of satisfaction as we are going through these changes. There was actually one point when she was dancing like a goddess, and I don't know which age was that, but yeah, it was mainly element of a shock and surprise of what is going on and how I really like blend in with everything else around me, right? Yeah. Yeah, Laura.
Yeah, I would say there is insatisfaction all the time. So running to something else, and the time is passing, right? And so you forget to savor what is the time of being. So the word impermanence was there for me. That's why helped me to stay detached. Say this is what is that, right? So looking for this perspective where changes, as you mentioned before, are not always coming for bad, but also for good. Keeping this perspective, she was running through all life, actually. She became old. So that's also some very important outcomes, I would say. So keeping the perspective on impermanence and how changes also can bring in something better or different of what you need if you're not aware about. So it was a joy to watch the video, a kind of reflection. I will be there soon. I will be there soon. I will be there soon, right? But of course, then there is stepping out that, the sadness, realizing, yes, everything's coming and going and passing by. So yeah, it's really change of perspective that helped me to stay more balanced in watching the video and realizing, yeah, that's the cycle, that's the path, the journey, whatever. And yeah, that's the reflection. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for contributing with the reflection. I'm also just going to read what Caroline shared. The video really made me think about organic change, natural life stages, and how to leave them out, or rather keep an open mindset and embrace the present, no matter the stage. The video, in contrast, ended on a sobering note, not being with others, which would make being content with oneself all the more important. And I mean, it's like, so we can really see this. I would just like to offer to you a bit of kind of like scope where we can see the cycles of life and how important it is to keep reminding ourselves that these cycles of life are present with or without our desire for change. We cannot control that. And now what we are in a way witnessing in our modern life, 21st century, that many are trying to step away out of that natural cycle. You're actually beginning in with great efforts to step out of what is natural and, you know, have those pills that are going to bring us longevity, to change our physical appearance so that we don't look like we are aging, as if there is some sense of shame about it, as if there is an expectation that staying frozen in one stage of life, at least physically and by appearance, would show how successful we are. And there's like a lot of problems are going with that, the body image, and a lot about all of that with women, actually, right? So resisting change can bring with it is like a lot of mental health issues, and one element that is part of that is really expectations we have of ourselves, expectations we believe the society has from us. Even this Zoom call, right? Like it has a option of touch up your appearance, right? So you can appear a bit younger or fresher, more presentable, right? Before, us common people, we did not have that capacity to impact how we appear in public eye. Only privileged could go and be on the TV, in the media, and for whatever merit they had and however they deserved to be there. But now everybody can do that. It's very, very convenient. It's really affordable and very approachable, right? So life is changing, our environment is changing, conditions are changing all the time. One story that Thich Nhat Hanh is using a lot to give us that perspective of impermanence is this notion of how do we relate to a life cycle of a rose. So it's just imagine yourself go walking through a garden and you see a beautiful rose there, right? And whichever color it is, you see it, you have scissors, garden scissors in your hand, and you say, wow, look at it, it's beautiful. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to take it because it can bring some freshness in my room. And you bring it, you make a vase, put the water inside, put the rose inside, and then for some days you look at the rose and you're so happy. You're so happy. Rose really brought some freshness and some beauty into your environment. And then rose begins to wilt, perhaps on the edges of its crown. It's like it begins to dry a little bit, or some leaves begin to fall off. And just notice what is your feeling about it. Is there any notion and sensation of sadness or fear or panic? And perhaps if we would hear that somebody was really, really disturbed about the cycle of that rose, that it's already not being able to be alive for us, for our enjoyment, we would contemplate on that person perhaps not quite being emotionally stable and right. Yeah. And why would that be? It's really accessible. Well, you can just go into the garden and pick up another rose. What's the big deal, right? Throw that one away and just go and get another rose. And then you can make it so that you have rose every single day, but it's always a different rose. So what happens in this situation is that we are aware and we have accepted the cycle, life cycle of a rose. We know that that rose is going to wilt even if we don't pick it up. Right? Even if we don't cut it, it's going to wilt and then in some way just go and become part of the soil, and eventually, however it is, it's going to come back from the seed, but we don't really think about that much. We only think about what is useful for us. The enjoyment, the beauty, the smell. Maybe we can make a soap or a perfume out of it. So that element of what is useful, what is not, and how much can we benefit from it will actually support us in how accepting we are of a cycle, life cycle of a plant, of an animal, right? But when we turn our eyes towards ourselves and look at our own cycle, what happens there? We become a little bit more confused then. We are not quite clear. How do we really manage that? How am I useful in my life cycle? Where am I contributing? For whom? For what? What's my purpose? What's my meaning? Right? Attachment, right? Would you like to share a little bit more, Laura, when you say attachment?
Oh, yeah, sure. It came is actually in the same direction, impermanence. So the attachment is what created the suffering. So the attachment of the rose up to the rose, that rose, make us feeling sad when the rose is falling down. And I had the same experience today with my plants. It came exactly in the same moment. I had a plant with me for 10 years. And I saw her suffering. So today I went to the shop. I wanted to replace some soil, make some nourishment. And then the guy said to me, no hope. I said, well, and for the first time, really, I was feeling like to lose a friend. 10 years for me, different flats, different stories. And so in the end, in the moment, the first moment, I was really sad. And then I look at her and say goodbye. I really say goodbye. And then we smash down. And then a smile came to me. And I said, well, she was my companion for many years. And it's time for her. I said, blame myself because I was not able to take her enough. So I need to learn also the lesson. So I said that the attachment is creating the suffering. As soon as I realized that there was many other things that I've been doing with the plants, I was able also to accept that, yeah, the time is there. Yeah, so that's the point of getting out of the attachment, of the clinging to something somehow till the end. You need somehow to be, I would say, to get the awareness that there is a cycle, there is a phase. Right? And of course, I have a new plant now. I replace her with a new plant. But it's different, as you said, it's a different plant. So I need to reestablish the relationship, the same care. And why not? Maybe it would be better. Would be something new for me. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it brings some emotions, it stirs emotions, all of that witnessing and expectations. And just as we were talking, I just realized something was going on with my headphones even, and I realized that my life battery expired. And so it's like it just caught me in the moment of not being prepared, not expecting, right? Like an attachment to permanence, like not seeing the cycle, the life cycle, wherever it is happening, right? The life cycle of a day, where you know, like it's time to wake up, it's time to sleep, and allowing all of that to be present is just examples of this we can have everywhere. So one element of mindfulness practice is that we become aware of these examples. And as we allow the nature or these life situations to begin to teach us on these different concepts, we can always kind of like become engaged in that dance, the interaction between the situation and ourselves, and learn who we are, who am I as I am experiencing that. So, oh, there's really this sense of attachment for a life form, for a plant that I had and I was nurturing and I really was caring for it. This element of care there, right? It has a history. But then with mindfulness, the question would be, and what am I learning about myself now as I'm experiencing that? Oh, that is how I care. When I care, I really care. I really give myself fully, completely, right? Or how am I experiencing the moment as I'm listening, my headphones, and then, you know, like realizing, shall I leave the headphones on and just pretend that everything is normal, right? That nothing has changed? Or shall I stand up and take the cord? And all of that is happening in the back of the mind, right? So in that form, how we are managing change, we begin to develop also our mask, how we appear with others, right? Like, so in order to belong, I'm just not going to share with others how I'm responding to change. You know, that my body is changing and that I'm having this unease about how my body is changing, that my plant is dying, that the seasons are changing, that I'm really happy, maybe someone else is not, so I shouldn't be happy, right? Like that part is also there. So within all of that, the idea is for us to, with practice of mindfulness, to remind ourselves on every step and embrace that with a smile and joy, actually celebrate these cycles of life. And when we see the garbage, because that rose, as an example, eventually turns in garbage, right? Like we throw it away, literally, and especially in the city. Seldom we are going to go and find a field where we're going to throw the rose there. We just put it in the bin and then it goes into wherever the garbage goes in the cities, right? So, but we don't necessarily mourn that. And then when we have that extended, right, from the seed, extended space, from the seed to the growth of the rose, to the full bloom, to the scent and beauty and enjoyment of it, to then the slow process of expiration and death and dying, and then garbage. And in the end, if in our mind we manage to connect the garbage with a rose, we actually manage to detach from the expectation that only part of Rose's life is beautiful and we can only appreciate that part. Right? So let's just pause with that. So in a way, if we manage to appreciate garbage in the same way, forgiving being the seed or the soil, something that turns into soil that is going to nourish the seed, then we truly close the whole cycle and embrace it as the cycle of impermanence. So when I began to practice with impermanence, I chose it as a remedy to help me to deal with grief that was already happening. Most of you know Simba, my dog, and I was like, okay, the only practice that can help me here as I was watching him age is that I begin to practice part of I should and I have to be willing to accept that people, animals, plants, everything around me, everything dies. But what I did, what I now know, I also became in a way ignorant towards life and birth. I was not celebrating the birth. I was not looking at puppies. I was not looking at the like beginning of life or even just place where there's no life seemingly, but maybe it takes some time for it to happen. And this is how I limited my practice. It became a very ego-driven way of let me just soothe my pain and prevent that pain and grief come in because there is this practice of impermanence that I know should take me somewhere. And this is how I really think we need to be very mindful of how we are using the mindfulness practice to embrace anything, right? Not only change. Because we tend to freeze it somewhere there. Oh, I'm calm there. The practice helped me to be calm. Oh, how wonderful, it's working. Oh, now I'm not calm. Oh, I'm breathing. Oh no, but now I can't really do it. And then we are disappointed, and then it's like, oh, it's not working. I'm going to stop practicing. So this understanding, ultimate understanding, universal understanding that the practice really brings forward is very important, that it helps us to kind of like step out, it takes us out of some dips into ignorance. And ignorance means not really seeing the whole picture, the bigger picture, right? Only seeing it partially. And yet we cannot refrain from that. That's also part of our humanity. I'd just like to invite you back to your breath now. We've been talking about some change that we can witness, that is visible. We talked about our incapacity to perhaps sometimes grasp or bigger concepts, bigger cycles, life cycles. I would just like to invite you into your sensual experience of the present moment and the changes that are happening now involuntarily within your body. And having this microcycle of birth and death, the constant change that we can always be aware of. The breath, just invite you to take a deep breath in, and just as you let it go all the way deep as it can go, and then exhale, let go. And in the next 3 breaths, I invite you to pause just before you exhale and hold it until it naturally wants to be released. Now in the back of your mind, as you're breathing, if you can just gently acknowledge at which point you just whisper into your own ear word birth, and at which point of the breath cycle could you whisper death. And which part of you is embracing the full cycle? Is there any resistance to any of the phases of the full cycle of breath? And now release all that and just go into the full, just felt sense, just allowing the breath to happen on its own. Letting it be as shallow or as deep as it wants to be. To bring some warmth to this experience, you may even place your hand over your heart or your belly. And if at this moment you have someone that you really care for, care about, you really want to show support, just let them join you in this full cycle of breath. Regardless how far away they are. Just like that awareness of sharing, same oxygen, same air, become the point of connection. And then dedicating one breath for yourself, another one for your dear one or dear ones. Two breaths for yourself, one for them, in whichever way and rhythm feels right for you. Allowing this cycle of change to happen and remind you of life. Embracing all phases of life. And reminding you of your own humanity and your capacity to care for yourself, for the others. Embracing change. Then gently coming back to our gathering, and you may either continue to keep your eyes closed or open them up whenever you're ready. I'm going to share a poem for the end. We'll share in the chat. It's Change by Kathleen Jessie Rain. Change, said the sun to the moon, you cannot stay. Change, says the moon to the waters, all is flowing. Change, says the fields to the grass, seed time and harvest, chaff and grain. You must change, said the worm to the bud, though not to a rose. Petals fade that wings may rise, borne on the wind. You are changing, said death to the maiden, your one face to memory, to beauty. Are you ready to change, says the thought to the heart, to let her pass all your life long. For the unknown, the unborn, in the alchemy of the world's dream, you will change, says the stars to the sun, says the night to the stars.